The Supreme Court has rejected a lawsuit against Bayer alleging that its Roundup Weedkiller caused cancer, and the ripple effects of this decision could be enormous. In a 7-2 ruling handed down Thursday, the Supreme Court sided with Bayer, the German company that manufactures Roundup, overturning a $1.25 million jury award for a Missouri man named John Durnall. Durnall is a gardener from St. Louis who spent decades using Roundup and claims that prolonged exposure to the product caused him to develop non-Hodgkin lymphoma, a blood cancer. He argued that Bayer failed to adequately warn consumers about that risk. The majority opinion, written by Justice Brett Kavanaugh, rested on a federal preemption argument. The Environmental Protection Agency, which regulates pesticide labeling nationwide, has determined that Roundup does not require a cancer warning. The court found that adding one under state law would directly conflict with the EPA's federal label requirements. Under the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide and Rodenticide Act, that conflict means federal law wins. Durnall's claim, the majority said, is preempted. The dissent came from an unusual pairing, liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch. Justice Jackson wrote that the majority had misread the scope of the federal law, leaving Durnall, in her words, without a remedy for the significant harms he has suffered. Now, here's why this matters far beyond one man's case. Thousands of lawsuits are currently pending in state and federal courts from people who similarly claim Roundup made them sick. This ruling could effectively shut the door on most of them. The active ingredient at the center of all of this is glyphosate, one of the most widely used herbicides in the world. Roundup was originally created by Monsanto in the 1970s, and Bayer acquired Monsanto in 2018. A 2015 report from the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans, pointing to evidence from lab animals and more limited data from human studies. The EPA, however, has studied the chemical and concluded that it is unlikely to cause cancer in humans when used as directed, though the agency did later withdraw some of its specific findings and said it would revisit them. The Trump administration weighed in on Bayer's side during this case, reversing the position the Biden administration had taken. That move drew immediate backlash from within the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, whose supporters had been vocal Trump backers. Zen Honeycutt, founder of Moms Across America, called the decision worse than treason and said it amounted to chemical warfare on the American people. Food activist Vani Hari, known as the Food Babe, called the ruling really sickening and predicted glyphosate would become a midterm election issue. On the other side, a Bayer spokesman said the decision was good for science, farmers, and industries that depend on regulatory clarity for innovation. The environmental law nonprofit Earthjustice called it deeply troubling, arguing it allows chemical companies to avoid accountability even when their product labels leave people unprotected. For now, the court has spoken. When a federal agency like the EPA has weighed in on a product's safety and determined no warning is needed, that federal determination shields manufacturers from state-level lawsuits making the opposite case. This is a story that will keep unfolding in the courts, in Congress, and on the campaign trail.